Man's sinister back bumps turn out to be haunted growths. Doctors revealed the terrifying truth. In the peaceful town of Maplewood, whispers gathered like storm clouds around Michael, a dedicated single father trying to keep his life together. Laughter echoed through the yards, but at home, his world had begun to shatter. Sinister bumps had appeared on his back, grotesque growths pulsating beneath his skin like a heartbeat of despair. The doctor had brushed it off as stress. "It's just work, Michael. You're doing fine," he had said, devoid of any real understanding of the terror that clawed at Michael's insides, but every night, as darkness wrapped around the town like a shroud, those bumps stirred. A creeping dread filled his mind, twisting around thoughts of untold horrors. Chilling whispers, too soft to decipher, crept into his consciousness, dragging him deeper into fear. He remembered old tales from the town about the Merrick family, a story of horror buried beneath the veneer of suburban bliss. The tales of their sins took on a life of their own, slithering through his mind, tying him to an ancient terror that clawed at the edges of his sanity. As the weeks passed, Jamie, his once-spirited son, vanished into the dark woods nearby for hours, giggles replaced by a silence that chilled Michael to the bone. Friends transformed into spies, speculating behind doors, judging with eyes that once held kindness. He felt it, the air thickening, the safety that enveloped him frayed at the edges. The thought of his son wandering the woods alone suffocated him. "Where are you, Jamie?" he whispered into the void. Fueled by desperation, Michael trekked through Maplewood, hoping to strip away the layers of trust he had placed in his community. The coffee shop, once a haven with sugar-laden treats for Jamie, now felt like a prison. The park, filled with oblivious laughter, dulled his senses as he scanned for familiarity, overwhelmed by the growing dread that gnawed at him. Something sinister lurked beneath the surface, like shadows hiding in daylight. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In his frantic search, encounters shifted from friendly exchanges to cold stares, filled with understanding that Michael had never invited. He confronted friends who seemed different, insidious secrets lurking behind their smiles. Each conversation felt like a blade, slicing through his belief that Maplewood was a sanctuary worthy of protecting his son. On a night filled with a suffocating haze, Michael stood at the edge of the woods, the gnarled trees whispering promises of dreadful truths, beckoning him to dive deeper. He felt the bumps on his back writhe in response to the whispers, marking the weight of sinister burdens he had not asked to bear. A scream cut through the oppressive silence, echoing through the woods and piercing his soul. It was Jamie. His boy was in trouble. The darkness loomed, ready to swallow him whole. With each passing moment, Michael faced a gut-wrenching question: would he fight against the darkness for his son, or was he already lost in the clutches of the twisted legacy that bound their lives? The woods loomed like a monstrous entity, stretching in shadows that intertwined and twisted, curling around Michael's trembling form. Each footfall felt heavy, the damp earth beneath him squelching as if the ground itself thrived on his fear. Darkness caressed him, whispering secrets only it could know, and the itch beneath his skin pulsed in time with the distant echoes of Jamie's call. Jamie. The name barely left his lips before it was swallowed. Silence loomed, suffocating, and the wind carried eerie murmurs. Michael pressed deeper into the forest, branches clawing at him like skeletal fingers. Memories of childhood tales, told over campfires, stirred within him warnings of malevolent spirits, of those who were lured away never to return. Was this what awaited him? A festival of terror engineered by the unseen. He gritted his teeth, fighting against the chill that trickled down his spine. Each bump on his back seemed to throb with a presence of its own, silently amplifying his dread. Could Jamie be near? Or was he merely leading his father into an abyss with every desperate step? Creeping forward, he stumbled into a clearing, moonlight spilling over the gnarled roots and twisted trunks. In the center, an ancient stone monument stood weathered and cracked, inscriptions fading into obscurity. Instinctively, he stepped back, the hairs on his neck prickling. Was this a shrine? A warning? Then he saw it. A flicker of movement at the edge of the clearing caught his attention. "Jamie!" Michael shouted again, voice tremulous. A shadow shifted, revealing a small figure hunched over at the base of the monument. Heart racing, he dashed forward, pushing through the underbrush. "Dad! Help!" The voice surged with fear, breaking through the haze of dread. It was Jamie, his son, pale and trembling, tears streaking his dirt-stained cheeks, staring wide-eyed at something lurking behind the monument. Michael's heart plummeted. He swept his arm around Jamie, pulling him close, shielding his boy from whatever horror loomed just beyond his sight. "What is it?" he asked, now a tight whisper, panic constricting his throat. "It's watching us," Jamie gasped, voice quavering. "It wants me, it wants to take me away." A sense of foresight crept into Michael's mind, the Merrick family's legacy, the horror woven into the fabric of Maplewood. There were stories, tales of souls ensnared by dark forces, each binding a piece of their spirit to the land, taken into oblivion. He felt the weight of his own bumps grow heavier at the thought. Were they mere growths, or did they harbor a connection to this cursed ground? Before he could respond, a growl rippled through the forest, deep and ominous, the air thickening with a palpable terror. Eyes glimmered in the underbrush, reflecting a malevolence that sent Michael's heart into overdrive. Heavy breaths clouded the stillness, an entity lurking just beyond what they could see. "Run!" Michael screamed. They took off, the forest thrumming with life around them, branches snapping like bones, feet pounding in chaotic rhythm. Michael glanced back, the shadows began to twist and churn, an ethereal form beginning to manifest. It drew closer, and with it came a suffocating darkness that threatened to envelop them, but then, a bone-chilling whisper slipped from the shadows, "You can't escape, it's already inside you." Fear gripped Michael's heart, the truth sinking in. What had he unleashed? Even as he clutched Jamie close, the darkness surged behind them, relentless and hungry. Would they outrun the terror, or become another chapter in Maplewood's haunted history? A single thought echoed through Michael's mind: what kind of monster lay within him, waiting to take hold? Branches whipped past them, snapping sharply like angry jaws. Michael's breath came in gasps, his heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. Jamie, clinging to his side, matched his pace, legs pumping in frantic desperation. "Keep going. Don't look back." Michael barked, adrenaline surging through him. They melted into the walls of shadow, the brightness of the clearing fading behind them. As they ran deeper, the darkness thickened, wrapping around them like a shroud. The growls intensified, reverberating through the air in low, guttural tones. What hunted them wasn't just a beast, it felt like the forest itself was alive, encroaching, swallowing the light and their hope. "Dad, I'm scared." Jamie's voice trembled, a thread of fear that sliced through Michael's resolve. "I know, son. Just hold on." Michael yelled, but inside, a pit of panic clawed at his insides. The shadows seemed to breathe, shifting and flickering, coiling tighter with each precious second. They darted around a cluster of trees, slipping through the underbrush, but moments later, Michael stumbled. A root snagged his foot, sending him sprawling face-first into the cold, damp earth. "Dad!" Jamie screamed, halting his escape. "No. Keep going." Michael gasped, rising to his knees, the weight of dread pulling at him like lead. He pushed himself up, fingers digging into the soil, and forced his body to move again, adrenaline carrying him forward. But Jamie hesitated. The boy's eyes widened in terror at something only he could see lurking in the corner of the night. "Dad, it's there." Jamie pointed, voice breaking. Michael turned slowly, dread washing over him like a cold wave. From the depths of the shadows emerged a figure not entirely solid, not entirely ethereal. It flickered, whispers dancing around it as its eyes glowed with an otherworldly hunger. "Jamie, run!" Michael yelled, but his feet felt glued to the ground. Time stretched as they both stood frozen, father and son bound together by panic. In that moment, the creature lunged forward, its form shifting, twisting, a kaleidoscope of horrors manifesting in the dim light. "Help me!" Jamie shouted, shrieking as the darkness coiled around him, tendrils reaching for his small frame. "No!" Michael lunged, grabbing Jamie just as a shadowy arm brushed against him, coldness seeping into his bones, whispering secrets and promises. The connection was electric, each pulse revealing the history of darkness that lay beneath the surface. "Come on!" he shouted, dragging Jamie toward an opaque path carved through the thick trees, their branches snapping and clawing at their backs like forsaken souls. They stumbled through the forest, the growls close on their heels, but just as they broke free into a small glade, Michael suddenly stopped. A low hum surged around them from the ground, vibrations that felt ominously familiar, resonating with those pulsating bumps on his back. "Dad, what is it?" Jamie asked, quivering against his side. It feels like before he could finish, the air shifted, surrounding them with a profound stillness. The shadows fell back, as if held at bay by some unseen force. The giant stone monument loomed in the distance. Something welled up inside Michael, a pulling sensation. Was it summoning him? He couldn't shake the feeling that the answers lay there, entwined in the very darkness that chased them. "Jamie, we have to go back to the stone," he whispered urgently, heart racing in a jagged rhythm. "Are you crazy? It wants me." Jamie squeezed tighter, a mix of fear and defiance. "We're not safe here. We need to know what we're dealing with. It might help us." Just as they turned, the shadows roared back with a violent fury, erupting from the edges of the glade. The creature drifted closer, and in that heartbeat of confusion and dread, Michael realized. The menacing voice slithered through the air, "You belong to me now." With a frenzied determination, they dashed towards the stone, but could they reach it before the darkness reclaimed its hold? Were they walking into salvation or the mouth of insanity? Time was running out. As they sprinted toward the stone, Michael's pulse thundered in his ears. Each step felt heavier, like the ground itself was trying to pull him down. The shadows roared, threatening to swallow them whole, but Michael's focus locked onto the ominous monument rising against the darkness. "Dad, I can't. I can't," Jamie whimpered, his legs faltering. Michael's grip tightened on his son. "Just a little further. Trust me." The creature's growls morphed into a chilling whisper, entwining their thoughts, clawing at their sanity. "You can't escape your fate," it hissed. Their feet pounded the earth, desperation fueling each stride. The moment felt surreal, as if they were racing through a dream, a nightmare from which they couldn't wake up. Jamie stumbled beside him, and Michael felt a sharp tug of guilt. They had to make it out alive, he had to protect his boy. "Almost there," he shouted, voice raw. Behind them, the shadows hissed, relentless. Tendrils of darkness snaked forward, grabbing at air, eager to ensnare. Finally, they reached the stone. Standing before it, the glade vibrated underfoot. The air hummed with energy, electric and throbbing. He could see intricate carvings on its surface, images of figures trapped in eternal torment. They looked like shadows come to life, twisted faces of despair, screams frozen in time. "Dad, I don't want to be here," Jamie cried, eyes wide with terror. "I know. But we need to understand this." Summoning every ounce of courage, Michael placed his hand on the cold stone. Instantly, a jolt coursed through him, creeping up his arm, linking him to something ancient and powerful. Memories washed over him, visions of other lives, of those who had come before, marked by the same sinister call. The growls morphed into frantic screams, piercing and echoing in his mind as the shadows closed in. "Join us! Join us!" The laughter felt sinister, like 1,000 voices layered over one another, rising and falling in a haunting melody. "Dad, please!" Jamie cried, yanking at Michael's shirt. "Don't let it take me." He could feel the weight pressing in from all around, the weight of darkness demanding its due. Did they need to make a choice? The forest felt alive with a dreadful decision looming. "Jamie, listen," he snapped, shaking himself from the mesmerizing pull of the stone. "This is what it wants. We can't let it take you. We have to break free." Michael could see the fear etched on Jamie's face, and it sparked something in him, an ember of rage against the entity that sought to consume his child. He pulled Jamie closer. "We'll fight it together." Steeling himself, he focused on the glow pulsing within the stone, tapping into its power. In that moment, shadows recoiled, howling as if burnt by light. The whispers turned into anguished wails, echoing through the glade. But suddenly, the cold grip of the darkness sunk deeper, wrapping around Michael's legs, tugging him down with an icy ferocity. Jamie screamed in terror, the sound shattering the eerie silence. "Let go of him. Let us go." Michael roared, desperation cracking his voice. But the shadows laughed, a guttural sound that twisted his insides. Their promises of joining the ancient power wove through the air like smoke, coiling around him. Then, a sudden burst of warmth surged, erupting from the stone into a brilliant light. It enveloped them, pushing the shadows back, but Michael felt himself wavering. "Hold on tight," he cried, gripping Jamie's hand. As the light flickered around them, Michael clung to the hope that they could escape this darkness. But at what cost? The forest trembled, and the stone hummed with forbidden knowledge, desperate to keep them trapped in its haunting grip. Inescapable and radiating both terror and allure, the creature laughed again. "You can't flee from the destiny you are meant to fulfill." With a fierce determination, Michael braced for the fight, knowing that salvation or doom awaited them beyond the glade. Would the stone reveal its secrets, or would they become another lost whisper in the forest's insatiable hunger? As the shadows surged once more, Michael prepared for one last desperate stand. What could they unleash if they did not yield? The light pulsed like a heartbeat, casting eerie shadows that danced around Michael and Jamie, teasing and taunting from the edges of the forest. Michael could see its tendrils flailing, the shadows writhing and twisting, trying to reclaim their prey. Jamie's grip on his hand felt small and fragile. "Turn away from it," Michael shouted, trying to drown out the screams in his head. "Focus on me." But Jamie's wide eyes were fixed on the stone, reflecting the blinding light. "What if we can't escape?" he whispered, voice trembling. Suddenly, the stone shimmered and darkened. The warmth ebbed, replaced by a rush of cold that clawed at Michael's skin. Visions erupted in his mind, images of people, trapped just like him, tormented souls that had lingered far too long. Were they meant to join them? The thought ignited a flicker of panic in his heart. "Stay strong, Jamie," he urged, forcing himself to take a breath. As if sensing his fear, the shadows roared louder, the whispers spiraling out of control, a cacophony beckoning him into madness. "You belong here. Join us." "No," Michael yelled again, shaking his head. He needed to shatter that grip, to pull them free from the abyss threatening to consume them. Gripping Jamie's hand tighter, he whispered fiercely, "We are more than their whispers. We are alive." The shadows recoiled, hissing like steam escaping a pot. For a fleeting moment, clarity washed over the chaos. Michael felt the stone vibrate beneath his palm, stronger than before. A pulse of energy shot up through his arm, crackling with potential. Could he use this power for good, to push back the relentless darkness? Michael's heart raced, ramping up the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Together. Whatever it takes. He had to channel everything he had into that glow, into that light. He pulled Jamie closer, feeling their hearts beat as one. In an instant, he struck out as if punching through the shadows. The sound echoed, a shockwave reverberating into the blackness. The air grew thick and charged, heavy with tension. The darkness hissed and shrieked, swirling chaotically around them as if caught in a tempest. "Keep fighting," Michael urged, channeling the strength growing within him, making the light grow brighter and brighter. He pictured them soaring above the abyss, escaping the claws of despair that clawed at their backs. The stone shuddered, glimmering with vibrant energy. "No. You can't leave." The monstrous figure appeared before them, an amalgamation of encroaching shadows and twisted limbs, contorting in anger, its voice like a thunderstorm. "Face your fate." It bellowed, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Yet Michael surged forward, fueled by protective love, and a grand flash erupted from the stone, a beam of pure light, flattening the shadows around them. For that instant, everything felt suspended, unbending, like the moment before dawn breaks through the night. "Jamie!" Michael yelled, but as light burst from the stone, darkness erupted too, surging towards them. The two collided, light and shadow grappling fiercely, twisting violently around one another. The scream of the shadows mingled with the heartbeat of the stone, a horrific harmony. Michael shielded Jamie instinctively, feeling the heat and cold crashing against each other. He could see the stone flickering. Was it finally on the brink of choosing which would win? The forest around them shrieked, retaliating against the light, branches whipping like vengeful spirits trying to drag them back. Then, a piercing howl tore through the air, chilling Michael to the bone. The shadowy creature reached a ogre-like hand toward Jamie, eyes burning with malice. "No!" Michael roared, feeling all the love for his child surge again. He pushed against the darkness with everything he had. But in the tumult, he felt an unmistakable slip of Jamie's hand from his grasp. "Dad!" The sound was a knife to his heart. Time slowed. In that breath, the weight of the world settled heavily on Michael's shoulders, leaving him suspended in horror and disbelief. He turned, desperation sinking his heart. Jamie! Was this the moment they would be lost forever? Was the stone going to claim his son as its own? In the depths of the chaos, Michael felt a flicker of hope. The stone glowed, almost alive, as if sensing the impending heartbreak. The terrible tension coiled around him, ready to snap. Would they stand against this nightmare? Or would it consume all that was left of them? "Hold on!" he shouted into the swirling dark. With a primal roar, Michael surged forward, ready to plunge headfirst into the unknown, knowing he may have to face the very essence of horror itself. The chaos enveloped Michael as he lunged towards the swirling mass of shadows. The howl of the creature reverberated in his ears like a death knell, drowning out rational thought. He pressed through the darkness, driven by a single burning desire, to reclaim his son. Jamie's voice echoed in his mind, innocent and full of fear. "Dad!" It ignited a fire within him. But the darkness fought back, heavy and oppressive. Michael could feel its icy fingers clawing at his back, tugging, pulling him into their suffocating embrace. Yet he pushed on. He caught a glimpse of Jamie, a flicker in the sea of black, the child's face a mask of terror. "I'm coming!" Michael yelled, his voice raw, hoarse from fear. His feet hit the ground hard, sending splinters of earth flying. The shadowy figure loomed above, its form shifting, growing. It transformed into grotesque faces of anguish, eyes wide with despair, mouth twisted in a silent scream. Each face beckoned him, drawing him closer, whispering in tongues he could barely comprehend. Join us, they taunted in unison, a chorus of agony that sent chills down his spine. Michael felt the air still, a moment of heartbeat silence amidst the chaos, the calm before a storm. Could he push through? Could he face them? No. A surge of determination burned through him. He would not cower. He would not relent. Using the energy crackling in the stone, he focused on Jamie's face, memorizing every detail. The laughter from when they played in the park, the warmth of their shared moments, it fueled him, igniting a desperate light deep within. As he fought against the ghastly shadows, he grasped the stone tightly, feeling its heat radiate into his palm like a lifeline. "You don't own us!" Michael shouted, raising the stone high, letting the light erupt from its core. The shadows writhed, shrieking in agony, and for a moment, he thought he saw fear in their swirling depths. But the moment was fleeting. The air turned electric, and a monstrous roar erupted from the depths of darkness. "You should have turned back. You have awakened what should remain asleep. Another massive hand shot out, seizing his shoulder with a grip like iron, twisting him around to face the creature fully. Fear surged through him, but he fought back, furious and unyielding. Let my son go. The beast paused. For a heartbeat, an unsettling silence smothered the world. He is part of this now. His fate is sealed. Michael lunged forward, tearing his body free from that cold grip. Sudden pain shot from his shoulder as the creature's claws grazed him, warm blood seeping down his arm. He look back. He had no time. Jamie! He cried, searching the thick blackness. Light from the stone surged, pulsing in his hand, urging him to fight harder. He pushed through, aching limbs straining against the shadows, battling against the despair that threatened to swallow him whole. Then, in a blinding flash, he saw Jamie trapped in a net of shadows, eyes wide, desperately reaching out. Hang on, buddy! Michael shouted, charging toward his son, but shadows loomed behind him, ready to strike, ready to snatch him away, just as they had with Jamie. Just as he reached for Jamie, a different voice slipped into his mind, smooth and coaxing, promising safety instead of the abyss. Let go, Michael. Join your son. It's warm here. He hesitated, heart racing with confusion. Was it a trick? The shadows closed in, and Michael felt a pull deep inside, urging surrender. No. He screamed, battling himself, fighting against the dark embrace clenching at his soul. There was no way he'd give in when Jamie needed him most. But the claws were sinking deeper. Panic surged, choking him, tightening like a noose. If he failed now, would Jamie be lost forever? The tension crackled, the shadows pressing closer. Michael's breath came in quick, shallow gasps as he sensed the darkness preparing to swallow him whole. He caught Jamie's gaze, fear, hope, love, an echo of necessity that sparked something profound within. Stand strong, he whispered, heart burning with hope and defiance, but the words were barely audible over the growl of the approaching storm. Would he succumb to the shadows, or could he tear through the fabric of reality and seize his son back from the brink? The stone pulsed again, begging to be unleashed. Michael's eyes narrowed. He would not yield. Not now, not ever. Together. He shouted, feeling the power surge as he felt Jamie's hand slipping back into his own. But right under their feet, the ground cracked open, and every shadow was ready to feed. Would this be the end, or a desperate fight for survival? The ground heaved beneath them, fissures spreading like the jaws of some monstrous beast, ready to devour them whole. Michael felt the tremors pulse through his body, dragging him and Jamie toward the maw of darkness, hungry for their souls. There wasn't time. The shadows whispered, growing louder, merging into an intoxicating cacophony that threatened to drown out his thoughts, to drown out Jamie's frightened plea. Dad! Jamie's voice trembled, the sight of his little boy caught in the web of terror igniting a surge of raw, primal fear. With a squeeze of Jamie's hand, Michael felt his son's warmth fragile and fading. Time was slipping. Hold on tight. Michael shouted, gripping the stone as power surged anew. It lit their surroundings in a blaze of radiant light, covering Jamie's face with hope while casting the shadows back momentarily. The terrifying figures shrieked, contorting, their howls of rage like jagged knives slicing into the silence that had stretched so thin. For a fleeting second, hope flared, but dread crept back as the shadows conspired, regrouping around them. Forms twisted and twirled, shaping into nightmarish visions that clawed at his mind. Join us, they continued, voices dripping with despair, echoing the memory of lost souls. Images flooded Michael's mind, faces of the missing, friends, neighbors, people who had once lived, now stolen. What had he awakened? No. He yelled, voice cracking, furious resolve pouring from his veins like hot blood. You don't get him. Not today. With a roar, Michael swung the stone, a blinding flash erupting from its core. The shadows shrieked back in twisted agony, and for an instant, their net weakened. He could almost feel freedom in his grasp. "Run!" he yelled, pulling Jamie along, but the darkness rolled back in like a thick fog. The ground beneath them quaked violently, yet it wasn't just the ground. It was an earthquake of sorrow, regret, and despair ready to swallow them whole. Jamie stumbled, nearly falling, and Michael's heart leaped in panic. "Stay close." With each footfall, shadows lashed out, desperate, clawing at Michael's legs, trying to pull him down. He fought against the depth of their whispering promises, promising him peace if he'd just let go. "Join us," they begged, their breaths hot against his neck. "No." The word erupted from him. It reverberated through the chaos, mingling with Jamie's whimpers. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a battle for their souls. Beyond Jamie, the ground cracked again with a spine-chilling crack, exposing a chasm filled with glistening darkness, the air heavy with despair. An eye appeared at the other end, wide and mournful, an abyss that seemed aware, searching, hungry. Michael could almost see the faces of those trapped within, calling for help yet unable to escape. Above, the creature's form shifted, expanding grotesquely, its many eyes locked onto Michael and Jamie. "It is too late." It boomed, a voice filled with crushing despair and demonic glee, echoing through the space around them, a sound that chilled every bone. "Hold on, Jamie. Just a little longer." Michael cried, desperation fueling him as he maneuvered through the dark. The stone pulsed in his hand, but shadows snaked up his arm, causing a searing pain to shoot through him like fire. "Let it all go, it's too much," the creature hissed, seductive and soft, inviting Michael to surrender. But that scorching love for Jamie blazed hotter than the pain coursing through him. He could not let it end like this. They couldn't become one with the shadows. "I will never give up." The stone glowed bright once more, illuminating the whole cavern as the energy coursed around them, cracking the very air itself. Michael made a final, desperate push toward the fading light of Jamie's smile, illuminated, hopeful, yet frail, and that glimmer flickered further away with each instant that in that moment, the shadows surged, swirling like storm clouds about to unleash rain, a thunderous echo of malevolence breaking the silence. There it was, an exit. But it shimmered with deceit and darkness. The air crackling, heavy with something dreadful. Together they shouted, but would it even be enough, or was the abyss already consuming them? The truth buried in the shadows waited to be unearthed, but would they pay the price? The ground trembled, stuttering like the heartbeat of some colossal beast, and Michael fought against the pull of the shadows that closed in on them. Each step felt like treading through molten earth, as if the very soil recoiled from their presence. The blackness throbbed, a living entity, thrumming with a hunger that seemed to resonate deep in Michael's bones. "Just keep moving," Michael urged Jamie, trying to push the boy forward, but Jamie wouldn't budge. He stood frozen, eyes wide as the night around them weaved nightmarish shapes that danced and slithered in the dark. "Dad!" Jamie whimpered, a small hand trembling in Michael's grip. The very sound felt like glass shards clawing at his heart. "Jamie, please." He yanked his son closer, fighting the urge to let despair wash over him. "We need to go now." The shadows tightened around them, their whispers rising, blending into a dreadful melody, hollow laughter echoing like a funeral dirge. "Join us," they crooned sweetly, scraping against the edges of sanity. Each word snagged on Michael's mind, a finely spun net threatening to suffocate him in grief. He heaved the stone aloft, its brilliance surging anew, casting a golden glow through the ensnaring gloom. But even as light cut through, he could feel the surge of darkness like oily fingers reaching to choke it out. "Keep your eyes on me," Michael shouted fiercely, forcing fear from his voice. "We're almost there." With every ounce of strength, he dragged Jamie forward, feeling the painful grip of shadows clawing at his legs, each sliver of darkness bitter, unyielding. But then, a chilling sound jolted through the air, a crack, sharp and sudden, like a whip breaking the silence. Anticipation twisted in Michael's gut as he turned just in time to see a rift, gaping wide in the earth before them, yawning like a hungering beast. The eyes of the creature watching, relentless. No. The scream erupted from him, raw and guttural. The chasm below pulsated with a life of its own, glistening with an essence that gleamed with lost hope and sorrow. Faces flashed before Michael's eyes, those who had vanished into the dark. Friends. Family. Each expression twisted in agony, sparks of anger and pleading that turned his stomach, igniting a fire of desperation. Help them. Jamie cried out, tugging at Michael's sleeve. They need us. Michael's heart plummeted. We can't save them. Not now. But as Jamie watched, wide-eyed, something stirred in the darkness. A hand, thin and bony, jutted out, clawing towards them with a yearning that froze Michael's breath in his throat. It had come from the chasm, no, from the depths of despair, hoping for a savior, yearning for bond. Michael. The hand cried, a voice smooth and familiar, dragging at the edges of his memory. His blood turned to ice. Help me, he recognized it. Another life, another pain. Those who had fought against this malevolence, who had paid the price. And now. Stay back. Michael shouted, his heart racing, but Jamie already extended his small hand, as innocent as a child oblivious to the cold treachery lying beneath. No. Jamie. But it was too late. The shadows surged like a tide, pulling Jamie into the chaos. Michael's scream caught in his throat, a sudden throb of dread slicing through him. Desperation clawed at the pit of his stomach, and with every ounce of will, he lunged. The stone blazed in his grip, incandescent glory against the smear of darkness clawing at them, illuminating their fight. But the shadow creature was relentless, so close now, whispering promises of gathered warmth and sweet release. Let go, it murmured, the sound curling around him like suffocating smoke. Michael's heart shrieked in reply. Never. The power within him surged, wielded by fear and love, pushing deep against the swelling tide. But with darkness all around, as ghostly figures reached from the abyss, a question loomed above them: could love conquer this horror, or would it be twisted into despair, leaving nothing behind? Just then, another crack echoed, darker than the rest, deeper, drawing his gaze toward the open mouth of the chasm. The ground beneath them quaked again, more violent this time, as undeniable force surged upward. And then would Michael's final stand hold? Or would they succumb to the dreadful lure of the very shadows they fought against? The darkness convulsed as Michael lunged forward, heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. Despair clawed at his throat, tightening around his vocal cords, but he couldn't let the shadows win. Not now. Not with Jamie in their grasp. That he shoved the glowing stone deeper into the void, its brilliance flickering like a dying star. Jamie. I'm coming. He yelled, scrambling toward the restless shadows that swirled and curled like tendrils of smoke, their whisperings drowning his shout. Daddy. Jamie's voice trembled, a threadbare cry wading through the murky air. It was so small, so fragile, it pierced straight into the marrow of Michael's soul. Fear twisted in his gut, an icy grip that chilled his veins. Images flooded Michael's mind, memories of Jamie laughing, running, carefree before this nightmare began. It had all been ripped away. Panic surged. Hold on, buddy. Above them, the ground twisted in a chaotic dance, fissures widening as the darkness surged forward, lashing out toward them like a predator. Shadows reached, clawed, hungry to reclaim what they had lost, each fingertip a promise of oblivion lurking just beyond Michael's strained vision. Let go of that light, the shadows choked out, words entwined with malice and rebirth, enough to freeze the blood in his veins. The creature nestled within the chasm loomed closer, grotesque and beckoning, a maw that promised sweet release. Join us never. Michael bared his teeth, pushing the stone toward the void, its luminescence flickering defiantly against the engulfing darkness. His senses ignited. This was a battle of wills. He gritted his teeth and pressed forward, a noose drawing tighter around his chest as he fought to reclaim his son. The shattered ground split beneath him, sending stones pinballing into the abyss. He stumbled, knees threatening to buckle, but he caught his breath and steadied his grip on Jamie's arm. You have to trust me. Suddenly, a burst of howling laughter erupted from the depths, a cacophony of voices twisted in anguish and entreaty. Friends lost. Drumbeats of despair merged with the laughter, filling his ears, drowning out everything else. It was a memory brought forth, faces of those he cared for flickering like candles, shadows still clinging to their forms. Dad! Daddy! Jamie screamed, his voice shrieking above the chaos. I'm right here, Jamie. Just a little more. Michael strained against the pull of darkness. But Jamie's little hand was slipping. The ground quaked violently underfoot, a final gasp as though the earth itself were exhaling its last breath. Join us. A chorus, relentless and dripping with seduction, sealed around Michael, drawing him toward the ledge of darkness. Various hands reached earnestly from chasms unseen, fingers curling painfully around his feet, pulling him closer toward the horrifying maw. No. Michael wrenched Jamie back, adrenaline igniting every fiber of his being. He could feel the stone dimming, its light flickering as the shadows choked around them. It was a war, darkness against love, convincing him that surrender was the only escape. Let go, you will be free, whispered the darkness, a lullaby of despair that sang to him, vibrant and serene. But just then, from the depths, a voice rose above all others, haunting and unmistakable. Michael, it was Beth, his wife, her image brought forth as the shadows beheld her with a reverence that sent a shudder through him. His breath caught. Images of their life, laughter, highs and lows washed over him like a rough tide. But this? This was different. I'm here. He shouted against the turbulent wind, rage and love surging together. He wouldn't let them win. The shadowy tendrils writhed, blurring into shapes that stabbed at his memory. Each face twisted between reality and illusion, the weight of existence swinging perilously as the coal-black umbra threatened to pull them all under. Stay with me. The voice called again, an echo of unity in the chaos, clinging to the fraying edges of his sanity. He felt himself wavering as the darkness promised them peace. Silence, with a gut-wrenching scream. Michael threw the stone toward the chasm, praying the light wouldn't extinguish, but the swirling shadows were relentless, drawing closer as shadows collided and laughed. Joy and despair chimed in an unholy symphony. Was this the end? Or could Michael grasp victory from the churning chaos, pull Jamie away, and defy the sinister fate that loomed just beneath their feet? His breath caught again as the darkness enveloped them, tightening its grip. Would this darkness finally snuff out the light? The shadows clamored louder, desperate, hungry. They were losing him, losing everything. What horrors awaited them if he failed? Michael's heart hammered against his ribs, an echoing call for survival in a world overshadowed by despair. Jamie's small hand trembled in his grip, his son's desperate cries weaving through the chaotic fabric of darkness that threatened to engulf them both. Stay with me. He shouted, voice raw. Fear curled like smoke in his chest, urging him to run but knowing they couldn't escape. The depths of the chasm growled, desires whispering promises that slithered into Michael's ears, urging him to leave this fight. Join us, the shadows cooed, their whispers sweet yet sinister, echoing through the winds like an ancient curse. We can rest together, no. Michael roared, the reverberating sound disrupting the beckoning lullabies. He felt the grip of the shadows tightening around his legs, their icy fingers seeking hold. You don't get him. With a surge of determination, he tightened his clasp around Jamie's hand, forcing his foot down, refusing to yield. The stone pulsed fiercely in his grip, igniting a fire deep within his core. Together, buddy. He cried, looking into Jamie's wide, terrified eyes. They were the same eyes that sparkled with laughter and joy, and Michael knew in a single heartbeat they couldn't falter. I want to let you go. Bursting with newfound fervor, he raised the glowing stone high, its energy crackling through the dark. Light, be with us. The shadows writhed, recoiling from the piercing glow, shrieking in rage as if the very light was a weapon they had never anticipated. Sweat beaded on Michael's brow, each breath labored, straining against the weight of despair. Can't we take them with us? Jamie whimpered, voice trembling as fear replaced hope. "They need help, Dad." Clenching his jaw, Michael felt the grip of shadows trying to pull him in, trying to sink him deeper into a void where light could no longer reach. "No. We need to save ourselves first." The echoes of anguish from those lost pressed onto him, drawing memories from every corner of his mind. Friends, neighbors, those he once loved, they screamed in agony, trapped in the clutches of the abyss. But as their pleas merged into a cacophony of sorrow, Michael realized something pivotal. He could not save them, not now, not when he needed to protect Jamie. "Follow my lead," he shouted, thrusting the stone forward with every ounce of his being. Then, in a moment of divine clarity, he saw it, the creature, dark and ominous, merging into a grotesque form that reeled in confusion. It stretched and twisted like a serpent, eyes narrowing as if sensing victory slipping through its fingers. With grit fueled by love, Michael propelled himself forward, pulling Jamie along, glowing stone radiating light like a beacon. "Make it to the light." With every step, the ground trembled, shadows roaring at their loss, taunting the duo lost within their chaos. "Jamie!" Michael cried, catching a glimpse of that innocent spark, his son's determination shining bright even against insurmountable odds. Grasping tighter, they pushed toward the shimmering essence of hope, the very heart of the stone, radiantly glowing, and then snap, the ground heaved violently beneath them, tearing like fabric as unseen horrors clawed to pull them down. Splashing darkness surged around their feet, clawing up their legs, seeking to drown them in despair. "Don't let go, please," Jamie willed, clinging with all the strength in his small frame. "Scream with me," Michael shouted, lungs heading for shattering as he towed Jamie behind the shimmering light of the stone. Summoning the last reserves of energy, he bellowed at the darkness, "Get back. You can't have us." The explosion of light erupted as Michael thrust the stone one final time. A blast of brilliance erupted outward, a shockwave that sent shock through the shadows. Screams of anger collided with the light, dissolving into seeds of despair as they surged towards the doom of a gaping chasm. The explosion brightened until it became unbearable, and Michael felt the shadows repelled from him like moths drawn away from a flame. Jamie's screams turned into laughter within the brilliance, eyes sparkling with flickering hope. Through the blinding glow, Michael propelled forward, shielding Jamie from the wrath of darkness that swirled momentarily before receding, coiling into a tiny wisp until the abyss yawned wide beneath them. "Hold tight." Michael pulled them forward, freedom nearly within reach. Almost there. With the final push, he tore through the darkness like breaking surface water, bursting into brilliant light that swallowed them whole. Exhilaration washed over them as the fiery surge engulfed, pulling them through the void and crashing into reality. They landed hard on the forest floor, glassy winds surging around them. Panting, Michael blinked against the brilliance, the dawn breaking through the trees, golden rays arching across the freshly dew-kissed grass of Maplewood. It was quiet, sweat coated his brow, heart racing, but darkness had fled. The stone lay before them, silent but radiant, once more a humble reminder of the battles fought and won. Jamie clung to him, trembling yet safe within his embrace. "Did we win?" Jamie asked, eyes wide and innocent. Michael gazed down, wiping dirt and fear from Jamie's cheeks. "Yeah, we did." Warmth enveloped them, an embrace unlike any other, filled with love and light. Together, they had emerged into the warmth of a new dawn, reckless yet alive. The shadows lingered, but they were no longer chained to their grip. They had turned the page of their own story, and while echoes still whispered in the depths of Maplewood, their voices became a warning. From now on, they would cherish every glimmer of light, their bond a beacon against the dark. As they pushed themselves to their feet, hand in hand, Michael felt lighter, like burdens had been lifted from his back, like the sinister bumps that had haunted him had finally shriveled. He breathed deeply, pulling in the fresh air, filled with hope and cleansing renewal of life. "Let's go home, Jamie." He smiled down at his son, the familiar warmth wrapping them both in love, and together they walked hand in hand, leaving shadows and fears behind. "Now, before you leave, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now, it feeds the algorithm and helps everyone find these stories. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this thrilling conclusion. Your support matters, and only true fans understand how important this is to keep the adventure alive.